Okay, Bismillah. Welcome to part two of Al Basir. Do you want to continue your thoughts, Zira?
Yeah, I'm just gonna look up the reference. So when Allah speaks about the people of Musa alayhi salam, he says, I mean specifically in the context of his competition or his facing the magicians of his time when Fir'aun said you're just a magician who wishes to take us out of the land, so I'm going to gather all of the magicians and then we're gonna have this huge competition. And then Musa alayhi salam was like, okay, sure. And they said, are you going to throw your yeah. قال يا موسى إما أن تلقي وإما أن نكون نحن الملقين. Will you throw or should we be the ones to throw? قال ألقوا فلما ألقوا سحروا أعين الناس واسترهبوهم وجاءوا بسحر عظيم. So he said, you throw. And when they threw, they enchanted, or yeah, I guess enchanted, but it sounds too nice.
Bewitched?
They, yeah, bewitched the eyes of the people, and they, I guess, terrified them, and they brought, or they came with great magic. وأوحينا إلى موسى أن ألق عصاك فإذا هي تلقف ما يأفكون, and we revealed to Musa alayhi salam, throw your staff, and it, I guess, it devoured what they were lying about. فوقع الحق وبطل ما كانوا يعملون. Sorry, استغفر. فوقع الحق وبطل ما كانوا يعملون. So we come back to the bottle thing. So the haq stood, and what they were doing was annulled or cancelled out. So it's like this question about what is basar, or because there's a link between ayn and basar, but it says سحروا أعين الناس. They bewitched the eyes of the people, but it doesn't say سحروا بصر. Um, so yeah, what the eyes of the people were seeing was actually not real. And Allah says ما يأفكون, what they were lying. So it was actually a lie. And so then he says, because Musa alayhi salam was not doing magic and his miracle is real, it's from Allah, then the haqq stood and what they were doing was lies. So it became batal and it was gone. And so it's like this question of how many things are we seeing that are actually haq and how many things are we seeing that are batil. And I was just saying that magic has been so mm, prevalent throughout societies, even in the past, that every single prophet that Allah sent, their people would say to them, قال ساحر أو مجنون. He's either a magician, or crazy or possessed. And yeah, so it's like this question of like, especially now, right? Like the things that we see, how many things are edited, how many things are AI, how many things are deepfakes. What are we seeing? What's real? But even beyond that, I think there's another hadith where it says, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam like recommends or makes the dua, Allahumma arini haqiqat al-ashya'i kama hi. So it's like this thing about whatever we see, like even though we see, we have some level of basar, but what we see isn't the haqq necessarily. And so that's why there's a need to make this dua. And I think there's another dua like Allahumma arini al-haqqa haqqa
Yeah.
warzuqni
اللهم أرني الحق
ittibahu
حقا وارزقني اتباعه وأرني
warin
الباطل باطلا
al-batil. Mhm.
وارزقني اجتنابه.
Right. So it's like this question of basar. And also, again, I think last time we spoke about kind of like, the verbs for looking. Nazar, basar. And then it's like, what is arini? What is ra'a? Because that's what Musa alayhi salam asks Allah. He says,
Or
Rabbi,
Ibrahim,
show
you mean?
me so I may look at you. Sorry.
Ibrahim, you mean? ربي أرني كيف
No,
تحيي
Musa
الموتى.
alayhi,
Isn't that...
no, Musa alayhi salam says, I want to look at you.
Oh,
And he says, Lan tarani.
but Ibrahim also says أرني كيف تحيي الموتى, right?
Yeah, yeah, but then he is shown that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but then it's like Musa alayhi salam, Allah says, Lan tarani, you won't.
Yeah.
But then, But if the mountain stands, then you will have seen me. And then the Sheikh Al Akbar has tafsir of this that he did see him because when the mountain stood, um, Ja'alu, I think it says Ja'alahu Sa'iqa, something like that. Astaghfirullah. Anyway, but he says that Musa alayhi salam died when that happened. And because we cannot see Allah in terms of ru'ya, I guess. Yeah, ru'ya, right? That's the verb. Sorry, that's the noun. So
Yeah.
if we can't see Allah in terms of ru'ya unless we die. So Musa alayhi salam died and then he was revived. So he died and then he's had the ru'ya of Allah and then he was revived. But yeah, so what is yeah, if we can look at ru'ya versus basar versus nazar.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to start with the introduction that I usually do again, just because I think I can connect it to everything that you were just talking about, and also because it's been on my mind for a bit, and I guess it's also relevant to the future of this group and these sessions and etc. So I think the first thing that I want to say is that. Um, and I feel like I should have said it maybe earlier on in these sessions, but and it was a conversation that started with Joshua before we even started this group in any of these sessions, and that's the idea that a lot of my work and my research really is about what I like to call the decentralization of knowledge, um, or kind of more simply just shifting how we learn and how we teach. And I found that conversation is really the best way that we learn, whether it's in classrooms, whether it's casually among friends, whether it's in news and in politics. That's what affects people the most. That's what people internalize the most, is the information that they receive through conversations. So in a lot of ways, these sessions, this group, my research is really kind of anti-establishment. It's kind of a rebellion in a lot of ways. It's kind of protest in a lot of ways to a lot of traditional modes of education, and a lot of um, traditional modes of learning. And I think I'm realizing more that as attractive as it might be to people at first, I think it does also make them uncomfortable. I think not everybody is really very keen on conversation so much as they are uh, ready to appeal to an authority, or book, or a text, or something like that. And that's not really what we do here. I mean, literally, the only text that we really use is dictionaries. And that's not to say that, like, you should abandon scholars or abandon education systems or abandon any kind of authority. I'm not like a complete anarchist, but I do think that a lot of the structures that we are embedded in and surrounded by have lost their benefit and lost their utility. And much in the spirit of what we're talking about, what you were talking about, or what we both started talking about in the beginning with magic, is syncopation magic, right? Is that the devil's work, right? Maybe, but I think the most important thing that we can say really is that we have to be very, very aware of the fact that there are forces out there. There are forces of subterfuge and sabotage and corruption and um, even mind control, you could say, right? That are out there that don't want us to be free thinkers, right? They don't want us to be free thinkers, and they don't want us to team up and collaborate with each other, right? They want us to stick to the status quo. They want us to not to make too much noise. And part of that is, excuse me, part of that is music and entertainment, and the very fast-paced, glittery world that we live in, right? That just kind of really inspires you to do nothing other than chase the next shiniest thing. It doesn't really inspire you to stop and pause and think about the future in any kind of meaningful way, right? The only thing that you're really encouraged to think about is what you're going to buy for dinner, or what you're going to watch when you finish working your 8 hour, 9 hour job, or whatever it is. How you're going to continue the cycle of distraction and satiation um, and complacency. And that's how the world is in the state that it's in, right? It's a very simple tactic of divide and conquer, right? If we can keep everybody distracted, right? Like the Quran says, "Alhaakum wat-takathur," right? The accumulation of things has distracted you. "Hatta zurtumul maqabir," until you make it to the graves, right? Until you are dead and in the earth. That's this life is constant distraction. Um, yeah. So that's my little TED talk, I guess, on the future of this podcast and the future of my research and this app and a lot of this work. And and I'm very grateful to have found a community of like-minded people who are interested in pausing to stop and smell the roses, so to speak, or read between the lines, or you know uh, remove the veil and decide for themselves what they see, instead of letting somebody else dictate that for you. um, and I think we got to magic because we started talking about asamia, right? And we talked about how sound is kind of like the more fundamental sensory apparatus or sensory interface that we all deal with all the time. We're always hearing something, or even if we're not hearing something, we're feeling some kind of vibration, whether it's just the electromagnetic spectrum that's all around us in the air, or the charge of the earth against the charge in our bodies. So that led us to talking about music, and how music and sounds in general, especially like syncopated music, which I won't try to explain again. There's a nice video in the chat that will explain syncopation much better than I can. But basically, it's just like normal speech, normal rhythms have like a standard kind of like 1, 2, 3 regular kind of rhythm, and syncopation changes that up a little bit. And historically, that's caused people to physically feel ill and get dizzy and stuff like that. When this kind of music was introduced historically. But there's also some people that think that this kind of thing is used to control people's minds and brainwash them or influence them in some way. And I think that's very possible. But I think what might help protect us against that kind of thing is the next sensory apparatus or interface that we're talking about in the 99 names, which comes right after the all hearing, and that's the all seeing. And we said that if sound is kind of the most fundamental um, sense, um, in the Arabic language, maybe we can even say sem, being the most fundamental, vision, basar, will be on the complete other end, right? Basar will be more like the more complex, the more one way I tried to kind of characterize it, I think last week, was that sound being more fundamental is kind of limited in its range, right? Like we know the the range of sounds that humans, for example, can hear, or living creatures. We can't hear radio waves, for example, but those vibrations do exist. So human hearing, we know what that range is, right? It's a fixed range. But human vision, especially in the sense of basar, right? Not in the sense of like ra'a or nazar, and which we could translate in English as like, basar would be more like vision, envisioning something. Whereas simpler forms of seeing would be like the word seeing or looking, or even attention. You can even say idrak. Is and shu'ur we talked about as being more fundamental maybe than hearing, or somewhere in that range, right? But the basic idea is that we have like very fundamental kind of sensory um, input on the one end with hearing, and then much more broad, infinite, kind of vast and unlimited sensory interface apparatus, however you want to think about it, on the other end with basar. Um, and I guess at this point now, I think we can finally expand the root here. Let me switch to Arabic. And I think the word that best kind of captures this idea of complexity and vastness of sensory, dimensions is basira, which we find in the Quran in several places as well. Um, right here, basira, which Layton has here as mental perception, perceptive faculty of the mind. But he goes on with lots of different synonyms: understanding, intelligence, skill. I like the translation of insight, actually. I think that's kind of usually how you find it translated in the Quran. I think at the end of Surah Yusuf, you have على بصيرة أنا ومن اتبعني. I guess we can switch actually to corpus real quick and see where else basira appears. Anyone want to jump in? Any thoughts there on basira before I? Well, let's look at basira, but I have some other thoughts on the root as well. Where is basira? Basar. So basir 51 times, basirat 7 times. Let's see where it appears. So it even has the translation of enlightenment a few times. قد جاءكم بصائر. I guess that's the plural there. من ربكم. هذا بصائر من ربكم. Another آية. قل هذه سبيلي أدعو إلى الله على بصيرة أنا ومن اتبعني. Surah Yusuf. So I guess we can just bring up this ayah real quick just to translate it. This is at the end of Surah Yusuf. Does anyone remember? This is referring to the Prophet, right? So the Prophet is told to say, "This is my way. هذه سبيلي أدعو إلى الله. I invite to Allah على بصيرة, with insight, right? With vision, right? With a long long-term vision. I think is what basira kind of implies. If no one wants to jump in here, I do want to take a quick tangent actually, because I think it would drive the point.
Sorry, can you go back to the قد جاءكم بصائر?
Yeah.
Because I feel like there, I think we kind of see like it's a choice. Because I think it says ومن أعمى فعليها, something like that.
قد جاءكم
Yeah,
بصائر
ومن عمي فعليها
is
فمن أبصر.
this the you're talking? Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
قد جاءكم بصائر من ربكم فمن أبصر فلنفسه ومن عمي فعليها وما أنا عليكم بحفيظ.
So like Amiya is like a almost, like a voluntary blindness. So it's so amazing that it's like, I think in English they say like you can take the horse to the, I don't know, somewhere, but you can't make him drink to somewhere, to the river. I don't know what the saying is, I forgot, but you can't make him drink. But yeah, so like it's like God is saying, I'm showing you these things
Yeah.
but you have it, like you have the choice if you want to see it, but also you can choose to be blind. That's crazy that we can, like, choose to not see. And that's what I think most of the people like that had an issue with Rasulullah's message. It's not like they didn't believe, they knew, but I think they chose to, they knew his character, they knew he's not a liar, they knew he's a sadiq. I mean, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. But then they close, right? And then they even, and I think it's also like similar to like listening to the Quran and hearing it, like with the sami' as well. Like they'll be like, لا تسمعوا لهذا القرآن. Don't listen to it. Like it's like, it's a voluntary deafness. So this is like a voluntary blindness and a voluntary deafness. And that's what Allah is criticizing in the Quran when he says, "إن شر الدواب عند الله," right? Like those are the worst of creation, moving creatures
Mm.
that are deaf and blind and mute. So, but it's so interesting that we can like choose to ignore something that's in our face. Like I mean, in one way, if you think about it, there's no greater sign for anybody that this is a message than seeing Rasulullah, like than his being, right? Because he is the walking Quran. He's like the most beautiful perfection of manifestation of Allah's and his names. But then like to see that and then to be blind, I don't know, it would take something. I don't know what it would take, but I guess the fact that Allah like even says that and like he gives human beings still the choice to say no. Yeah, like it's here. I can see it, but I'm not going to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think Yasmin mentioned this in the chat. And I don't think we brought it up last time, but I forget where the ayah is, but it says that it's not the eyes that become blind, right? It's the hearts.
Yeah.
التي في الصدور. I forget the ayah, but I guess it would probably be under Amia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's remind me, like even with the story of Al-Walid ibn Mughira, like with I think it's in Surah Al-Muddathir.
Yeah.
ذرني وما خلقت وحيدا.
Yeah.
And then like and with the ayat, and then like how he listened to Quran and he was moved by Quran and he knew this is not like a word of just bashar. And then نظر right نظر أعوذ
ثم
بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ذرني ومن خلقت وحيدا جعلت له مالا ممدودا شهودا.
I forget the ayah as well. ثم نظر ثم عبس
فقدر وقتل كيف قدر ثم قتل كيف قدر ثم نظر
ثم عبس
عبس وبصر ثم تولى واستكبر قال ما هذا إلا قول. I can't really remember. This is like
Again, does it say magic?
no, but it's just with the basira concept. I think like he chose not to like it was so obvious for him. It's like a basair min Allah, and then he chose to blind himself from it. And then even like with the tafsir, they say like the whole process and how when he went to listen to Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he came back and they said like they looked at his face and they knew that he was like moved in a way. They were like afraid that he abandoned their religion and joined Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And everyone was like Saba al-Walid, because he told him like like he said that like a whole thing, and there was like this light in his face. And then everyone who saw him that night they went and they told Abu Jahl, and Abu Jahl, he was like, leave it for me. And he went to him, and they had this conversation, and he knew exactly how to push him back in a way that then when he went back to the same group of people, was like the leaders of Quraysh, and they was like, all right, so what do you think now about Muhammad after you listened to the Quran and after we saw you last night? And he was like, if you're saying he's a shad, he's not. If it's saying he's a kahin, he's not. And he went through everything, and they was like really like a whole build up for him to say like, I believe in him, he's the like a messenger of Allah. But he chose to say that it's sihrun yu'thar. And that was the only thing that everyone was like, all right, the Walid is with us. And he had that conversation with Abu Jahl, and he chose to, like, the last piece of the puzzle. This was so obvious for him. It's either to believe that he is the messenger of Allah and submit to that, or he came up with that this is sihr. And now that was convincing for everyone else. It was like, and that's like a kufr in a way that he knew, and he chose to decide something else. Not only that, but to have it in a strong argument in a way that it will make sense to other people. So whoever was like halfway, and they were like questioning everything, now they can just depend on this new argument. It's a sihr.
Yeah, he does say, فقال إن هذا إلا سحر
سحر
يؤثر
يؤثر
إن هذا إلا قول البشر.
قول البشر.
Yeah.
سنصليه سقر
Yeah.
وما أدراك ما سقر.
Yeah.
This is like a very the whole interaction, and it was like an overnight, and just so powerful, and in a way that he had all the signs, and he was convinced, and he saw it, and he felt it. Even people saw it in his face like a light, and he chose to go with kufr because of like a dunya reasons. Abu Jahl knew exactly how to push his buttons in a way that reminded him about like his lifetime. Now, Quraysh, like how is that gonna change everything? Muhammad gonna be on top of all of us. And he got him back to that tribal. But yeah. So
Yeah.
I thought like it's connecting the basira even with nadar, because that's like I'm gonna get the ayat.
Yeah, I have it here. So I think it's a good example of nazar, right? Because إنه فإنه فكر وقدر.
وقدر فقتل
Right,
كيف قدر.
so yeah, he thought about it for a while, right? He tried to, he was listening to the Quran, and then Allah describes him as like thinking about it and thinking about it for a while, trying to come up with some kind of reasoning, right? That's what qaddara means, right? Or usually translated as determined. I can just put it on the screen. فَقُتِلَ كَيْفَ قَدَّرَ. So like, may he be damned for what, for how he thought. ثُمَّ قُتِلَ كَيْفَ قَدَّرَ. So Allah emphasizes it again. And then Allah just says ثُمَّ نَظَرَ, right? So he's still thinking about it, right? Like, Allah saying that, like, and here I guess is a good example of how nazar is different from basar and from ra'a, right? So ra'a is, I think, more simple, more obvious, more apparent to like everyone. You don't have to even think about it, right? It's just kind of obvious. Whereas nazar here means like he thought about it more, like he he looked. Nazar means to look in its obvious sense, but it also has the sense of like being more looking more so than with more intention or with more time even, right? Than ra'a. We even use the word uh, uh,
It's like
pardon.
consideration, like considering something.
Yeah, but we use the istifal form, which my brain is not no, wait.
Oh, from another
We say another to make. We use the root to mean wait sometimes, right? Um,
انتظار.
intidar. That's the same root.
And it's
Yeah,
also from like debate is also from that munazarat.
Yeah.
Nazar.
yeah. So definitely in between ra'a, but I guess closer to to basar, right? We even have some of the same, well, one of the same sounds, right? We have the ra, but the sad is also heavy like the va, like the va. So yeah, I think that's a good example of of showing kind of the scale of vision or like
Yeah, and I think like another is like it's the mechanism like it's the right. So like
oh yeah, it's
just
used
like
more for medical.
right
Yeah,
is and even like with the basar, if you بصرت شيئا means like you already perceived it, but to تنظر إلى شيء that you examine it to perceive something. It's like تعاين أو تنظر. The عين and they both are like more like the tool that you use to gain basar, or will conclude in basar as understanding what you see, or what you're
yeah,
looking at.
yeah. I think the
Like
way.
because basar الشيء it means like already like you know exactly what it is. But نظر إلى الشيء it means you still like you are in that process of like you are
Yeah,
seeing it, but it doesn't mean like necessarily that you understand exactly what you're seeing.
yeah. We also say like nazariya, right, or nazira, right, and that kind of has the meaning of
A
like
theory or
opinion or theory, right? Yeah.
yeah.
So it's definitely more than just simply looking at something, as you get with ra'a. And maybe even more contemplative. You know, more thought is behind it actually, maybe than both ra'a and basar. But I still think that basar is maybe more higher level because and this is the sense that this is just a sense that I get, right? I don't really see this documented anywhere or referenced anywhere, but and even in English, right? Even outside of Arabic, I think it stands, right, where you can say like looking maybe is or seeing is the most basic, vision is the more advanced. I don't know what we would put in between. Maybe seeing is more basic and then looking is more closer to nazar. But
I think it takes us back to the concept you started with, like with basar and basir. It's the higher, it's the other end of the spectrum of
yeah,
like it's the
yeah, yeah,
more most comprehensive way
yeah.
of perceiving. Even like you know in our dialogue, in Sudanese dialogue, we say we use ayn, like driven from ayn, I mean
Mm,
ayn,
mm,
ayn, and even like in to ayn a shape is like to examine it with your eye, right?
mm.
Or shuf, teshuf.
Shuf.
These
Oh
are
yeah,
like
shafa shuf.
these
Yeah.
are the two like and it's like more like tools, right? With the and with the basira, having a basira is like a and the basar, it's more of like the picture, like including like all these dimensions of understanding something, not just perceiving it visually, but to understand it.
Yeah, the other interesting thing is there's an interesting partial root here, right? So if we just look at bassa, right? And this is I'm sure in Sudanese as well, but like colloquially, and I think also classically, bassa means to look as well, right? So Like we use it in colloquially.
Yeah, it's very unique to Egyptian. That
Oh, you don't use it in Sudanese? They don't say boss?
no,
Oh,
but
really?
there's like a
Oh my gosh,
I
wait, no,
think
no, no. My teacher used to say this. He was Egyptian. My Hebrew professor used to be like, "بصوا معايا."
yes.
Yeah, yeah, boss. Okay, I didn't know that. I thought it was Sudanese and
I think it's very unique to Egyptian. That
interesting. Um, so yeah, it has the meaning here of listening. But I think Lane also has a note here that it's an expression used by the vulgar. So vulgar is usually what Lane uses to translate like غير فصيح. I forget. Um, yeah, sometimes they call it like لحن, right? Like يلحن, which just means to be vulgar. I mean, vulgar in modern usage means like, we use it for like curse words and stuff like that. But in older texts, it just means like slang. So yeah, so I thought that was an interesting partial root because it means for something to shine or glisten, which kind of reminds me of like the movement of the eye, right? Like when the eye moves under light, it kind of shines. The other thing that I think, there's a tabasbas, I guess there is an entry here, which means to scrutinize, or bassas here is uh, inspector. Um, bassa or bassasa bisayfi. Oh, so apparently it can also mean to like yeah, this is why it reminds me of like movements of the eyes, because here I guess the sense is that like you make you're reflecting light with something shiny, which is something that will catch the attention of your eye, right? So it seems like there's some relation here to the eye, even in the partial root. The other thing that I think is interesting and lends to the meaning of vision and the sense of like our most sophisticated or advanced sense, human sense, is the anagrams. So I know Zinira isn't a big fan of anagrams here, but one of the interesting anagrams for basar is sabr, right? Which we all know as patience, right? And I think that that's relevant because I think that to have vision, to have a long-term vision, if you want to build something, right? Whether it's a family or an app or a community or an organization or a business or whatever it is, you need patience, right? You need sabr. You cannot have vision. You cannot have long-term vision without sabr. Yeah, so I thought that was cool. I don't recognize these other ones. Rabs, Sarb, Boris. I think Boris is like leprosy.
So
Yeah.
in Surah Al-Kahf, like that's the difference between Musa alayhi salam's knowledge and Khidr's knowledge, but it says khabar. It's like to do with Allah's name Khabir. فكيف تصبر على ما لم تحط به خبرة? How
Hmm.
can you have sabr over something you don't have khabar of? So it's like sabr and khabar.
Yeah, that reminds me of like
Mhm.
you don't know what you don't know, right? You don't even have an inkling.
Mhm. But also I was thinking there's like so many names to do with seeing. There's also shahada, shuhud, witnessing,
Hmm.
and Allah's name Shaheed, and there's also Raqib.
Yeah.
And there's like Raqib, the angel Raqib as well that like watches us. And yeah. And then shuhada is like, someone who witness. It's like a rank, it's a maqam. It's a maqam like spiritually, but it's also like the maqam of the shuhada fi sabilillah. And so it's like all of these things are linked, seeing, looking, witnessing, gazing. Which one would, I don't know. How would we, observing, and raqib is also, how would we translate
Yeah,
raqib?
because raqib and
Watching.
muraqaba, and it's like observing.
But
Like,
Raqib doesn't have like the idea of like, I think I'm thinking of like with a calf, which is like to ride, right?
No,
But
stars, raqaba,
yeah, no, yeah, I
raqiba.
know. No, I know, but it's I can't help but think of the idea of rakaba with the calf, because that's something that you ride, right? You get on top of a horse, or whatever it is that you ride. And raqib is often used in a similar sense, I think, at least, of like overseer, right? Somebody who's watching over you, somebody who's
because it's like you reminded me of like with the difference between qaf and kaf. It's like how kaf is the lighter
yeah.
version of
Mhm.
like any word in a qaf. If you use a kaf, it will just like be a lighter version of. And that reminded me of like a sheikh. I think he was like doing it out of, but he meant it. He's like a scholar in tasawwuf and in Arabic language. So when he talk about America and he wanna like highlight the bad influence and the evil work the nation we do, he would say America. And he would say like, this is when I say it because I'm getting it to that level of if America is very light and
Uh,
America is that the devilish side of America.
that's funny.
And it's like funny, but in the same time it's rooted in the in his deep understanding of Arabic language and letters.
Right. Yeah, it's
But it's
definitely.
with the same concept. I think like Rakib, it means you are on top of something, right? You're writing something
Yeah.
physically, and Raqib, it's like a higher level of that, like being the one responsible of like not just overseeing it, but to observing everything about it. I think like that's the connection I was it just came to mind. I'm just thinking here. I don't have I'm not
Even
referencing
like
it.
in meditation, they say like watch your thoughts or observe your thoughts.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
Muraqaba.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
even muraqaba, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know that raqaba, the simple meaning is also to look or to watch, though. Yeah. So that's the base meaning is just to look, or watch,
Yeah,
or
I think it has more of like a. It also has, I think, a connotation of protection actually, because it's like a watchman kind of watch. Like to keep watch.
yeah.
And also that's actually one of the names that is, so for in the Hizb al-Waqaya, um from the Sheikh al-Akbar, the ayah for like seeking protection from magic, he calls on the name Raqib, Ya Raqib. So that's actually the name to protect. So again, that's so interesting. It's like the whole basar and watching thing, because a lot of times when that kind of magic is done, it's like he quotes that ayah, وَمَا هُمْ بِضَارِّينَ بِهِ مِنْ أَحَدٍ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ, and that Allah protects him from, like, we seek protection calling on that name, Raqib. And because it's so many levels of like nonsense, and I'm using a very mild word here, that they do, like they bury it in the earth, or they like sink it into the ocean, and then they send like a shaitan and everything. But like it feels like, who watches all of that? But Allah watches like every single move. So it's like, subhanallah, that's the name to protect, or like to even, I think, cancel out the magic, is Raqib.
Yeah, I guess we should also mention that, I mean, there's a sense here of waiting, right? So like watching and waiting, being vigilant and like waiting. And there's couple of senses here of like waiting to see if something bad happens or something good happens. Bata yarqubu nujum. So like that means like he just passed the night by watching the stars. But then I guess we should also mention like raqaba, right? Same root. That means neck.
Enslave.
Yeah, as a euphemism for
I
for a slave.
mean, why do you say euphemism? It's like the actual word that's used in the Quran is raqaba. Fakku raqaba.
But it is a euphemism, right? Right, because it literally means
I
neck.
mean,
So it's like
but
instead of so you're referring to the slave. It's like how we say like safe for like a soldier, right? Like we call a soldier a sword.
isn't that like metonymy or something? I don't know. I feel like there's another word for that. Why
Yeah,
is it a euphemism? Like, why is
metonymy or synecdoche? I forget which one. I mean, it's just a euphemism because it's instead of calling somebody like something more
dog?
harsh, you just refer to them by something metaphorical.
But it's interesting because in other places, it's like a body part, right? So it's like neck. Yeah, because some would say actually it's not an euphemism. Maybe it's even more graphic.
Yeah, CD Lane has it here, right here. They call it's synecdoche because synecdoche is
Right.
when you refer to a part, you refer to a whole by the part, and then metonymy is
The crown.
the opposite.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think it's
so
very very deep expression too, because when you like free a slave, you free them from their shackles, and their neck is, like as like being enslaved, like being in like chains. And I think it's like a very
Yeah,
deep way of like fakku raqaba. So you free them from their
you literally free their neck, right? Because
yeah.
often they have chains on their necks.
Yeah.
But I what I really like here actually is, and I think we saw this with al musawwir, right? I think that root also had this same idea of like extension of the neck. So like we say taswir or sawwara can also mean to like imagine something, right? Which I guess we should include in our list of synonyms for seeing. But it also had like I think sara or I forget which verb it was, but it meant to incline the neck. So I think that's what's happening here too with this root, because raqaba meaning to watch, and then also meaning the neck, raqab meaning the neck. I kind of imagine somebody that's like, like if you're on the lookout, right? You're extending your neck outward, right? You're looking around, um, your neck is moving. So that's a pretty cool non-metaphor or whatever you want to call it there.
so
Actually,
can you scroll down a bit where it said, yeah, just
in
I
the in
think
this spot.
on your own selves. Yeah, so أعتق الله رقبة. So we even say, right, like اللهم أعتق رقابنا من النار. And in one way, I guess it's like a metaphor, but like that's actually really like our actual neck. Like we don't want our body to be in the fire.
Yeah, I guess the riqab is plural, right? Of raqaba here. Yeah, riqab. أعتق رقابنا من النار. Yeah. Cool. I mean, I guess we have a nice list of synonyms for vision. Does that wrap up al-basira then? Anything
There was
else you want
something I
to?
was gonna say about Basir. What was I gonna say?
Let's look at root list again. Maybe something. That's all my notes.
can you look at corpus? I feel like there's definitely more about.
You want to see the list of words from the corpus?
Yes, please. Right. So I think there's also like this causative form, mubsir, that Allah
Yeah.
says the daylight mubsir.
Yeah.
Mubsir.
Mubsir. I mean, we have mubsir in
It's
the
at the
Quran as
end.
well.
Like if you scroll down to the end.
Oh, are you looking for something specific? What did you want to see?
Yeah, just like where it occurs.
Which one?
مبصر.
Oh,
It's like I
Mopsa.
think it's at the very end. Yeah. آية النهار مبصرة. Oh,
Yeah.
look at that. Even the Naqa is also supposed to be مبصرة. Oh, look at that. Subhanallah. Again, it goes with سحر مبين. فلما جاءتهم آياتنا مبصرة قالوا هذا سحر مبين. That
Which
the ayah was supposed to.
which
It's
people are these? Surah
oh,
An-Naml. فلما جاءت. Yeah, I'm not sure what the context is.
probably Sulaiman alayhi salam, but I don't know.
وآياتنا ثمود ناقة المبصرة. Yeah. I mean, I think the idea here is, I mean, visible, but I think also obvious, right? Like an obvious sign, right? Like the day is obviously different from the night. And from حَوْنَا آيَةَ اللَّيْلِ وَجَعَلْنَا آيَةَ النَّهَارِ مُبْصِرَةً. Right? So we always struggle with translating this, but we erased the sign of the night and made the sign of the day mubsira, visible, obvious. Illuminating, maybe, I think is even another way, right? Because if we connect basar to basira, insight, future-minded vision, I think Allah is saying here that, like, we made the day for you to, expand your horizons, expand your vision, find
Wait,
your.
subhanallah, how did we? That's amazing. Well, how do we not speak about Noor? That's like the obvious one, like, we even say like, yeah, Noor Aini.
Noor.
In
Well,
Qasidas to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he's supposed to be like Mubsara. Mubsara as well.
Sallallahu
It
alaihi wasallam.
illuminates.
that's
Illuminates, So like even when you say illuminates in English, then I was like, oh wait, light, like that's light. And you need light in order to like have vision. Like vision is the perception of light.
I see. Yeah. I think that's an
Which
interesting
there's no light at
observation.
night. So that's like the opposite of like mahon, right? So it's like there's light in the daytime, and that's why it's mubsara.
Yeah, that's an interesting connection because it immediately makes me think of, like, well, in order to have vision, right, in order to have any kind of future vision, or imagination, right, or like any kind of imagination that is meaningful, you need knowledge, right? And knowledge is often equated with light. Yeah.
And one of the things that I always like contemplate on and think about a lot, the concept of light and darkness, and in the form of day and night. Like in the Quran, it's always like the layl wa nahar. So then the night is mentioned before the day,
Yeah.
all through Quran. In the same time, ash-shams wal qamar, the sun is mentioned first. And with that, like the light, like the night comes first, and then, like, even like how I think about it, that we have the sun, and the sun is like, we have the sun rays going like in all directions around the sun, but we don't see that black matter. It's not like illuminated. But when the sun rays reach Earth and the different planets with the atmosphere and everything, that's where the experience of illumination would happen, right? And that's why the Shams and Layl, they are the two fundamental concepts. Like, it's night that comes first, and the sun. But the illumination itself is another layer. You have something illuminated, because like space is just dark. Like, we don't see things in space, and it's full of sun ray, right?
Yeah. That makes me think of where Allah says in the Quran that He created the night and the day,
Yes. and even the
خلق
shadows
yeah
to get us into all this.
yeah خلق uh, I'm forgetting خلق السماوات والأرض.
وجعل الظلمات والنور.
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, so that like Allah says in the Quran that He placed light and darkness. وَجَعَلَ الظُّلُمَاتِ وَالنُّورِ. He doesn't say that He created light and darkness, which is that's a long conversation maybe, but I think what it kind of leads me to, as many things often do, is the fundamental principle of a lot of these sessions and research is that our perception is fundamentally limited. Right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Because there's ways right now you can look at the cosmos and it's all lit up. It's just our perception with the human eye. That's why we're seeing it like as dark. But night is the fundamental creation. Night is the concept of night, not darkness. But الليل والنهار. النهار is a hadith that happens upon الليل. So the fundamental is layl, and then nahar is something that happens.
Yeah.
And then we go back to the baseline, which is layl.
Yeah, that's what that ayah says, فَمَحَوْنَا آيَةَ اللَّيْلِ, right? So like in the beginning there was only night. There's only darkness. And then Allah.
In a way, like it's layl, it's night, not even darkness. We perceive it as darkness, but it's layl.
Right.
As a fundamental level of like the fabric of the universe is
even the Surah Al-Layl, I think it says وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى النَّهَارِ. I'm sorry, that's not, I don't know which surah it is, sorry. But وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا تَجَلَّى.
Yeah.
I forgot what surah it is, but yeah, the Layl comes first.
Yeah. And I wanted to say something about like sihr too, like with how we started the conversation. So the sihr is like because we know from Quran that is a test like with the two angels Harut and Marut, and they taught people sihr. And how is that like so I think sihr, is it a manipulation of basar, or is it more of unveiling different things in not in the way that it's supposed to be unveiled, like in a way that you can it's still that I think that would be considered manipulation, but is it like it's not creating something, it's more of like
it's an illusion. It's a trick. It's reframing, I think, in the simplest sense, right? Like you're just kind of, a lot of magic that we see in the modern world is just misdirection, right? Like they're doing something with their hands to control your attention, but their other hand is doing something else. That's kind of magic.
Yeah, but I don't think that's the magic that's been spoken about.
No, obviously there's
Yeah,
degrees. There's degrees of magic, and then any kind of magic that relies on like non-human, like jinn or I don't know what else.
Shayateen, specifically shayateen.
Devils and jinn. That's going to be more powerful. But I think before you came on, Ammar, we mentioned the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which says, "Inna min al-bayan la sihra." Inna min al-bayan la sihra. So indeed, even from eloquent speech, right, is a kind of magic, because I think in its simplest sense, like what magic is doing is just reframing, right? Like you're taking something in its ordinary state, in its ordinary circumstances, and you're manipulating or shifting those circumstances in a way to bend the truth or to reframe it or misdirect, misinform. So
As a part of it, yeah. But at the same time, it's like even with the Sahara, Prophet Musa, they knew that they had like the best magic ever can be done, and then when they saw the haqq from Musa alayhi salam, they believed right away, and they didn't care what Fir'aun would do to them. They were like, we know, we saw our like ayat Rabbina, and that's it. Like, you can kill us, you can do this, is just a dunya. So through the understanding of sihr and doing sihr, they understood life in a way that when they saw that the haqq, they believed in it right away. خروا ساجدين.
Yeah.
So I was just mentioning, Amar, before you came, that in a book on Ruqya that I'm reading, it said that one of the ways that they do sihr is by having shayateen that throw illusions on the eyes of people that make them see things which differently from how they actually are. And so I think that's the kind of sihr that they were doing. Like because Allah doesn't say basar, but He says saharu a'yun an-nas. So the
Yeah.
sihr is on the ayn, it's not on the basar. And then He says, that it's ifk, it's a lie. But apparently, just from like the story and just inference, it looks like their eyes, because they basically take the shayateen under their command or control by making deals with them, selling their soul. بئس ما اشتروا به أنفسهم. And then they cast something upon the eyes of specific people that are meant to be bewitched. So that shows us, because that's obvious, because they themselves were not fooled, right? Like the magicians, they knew that that's not a snake. Because
Yes.
they were not, because the shaitan is under their like deal or whatever, so it wouldn't affect their ayun. But yeah, here it says that it's interesting. There's so many ayahs that it had to do with basar and magic. هل هذا إلا بشر مثلكم أفتأتون السحر وأنتم تبصرون.
Yeah.
So then it's like basar, and then it says again أفسحر هذا أم أنتم لا تبصرون. It's really interesting. It's like God is, they're like really powerful. What's it called?
Who was saying that? Who were the speakers there?
Allah is saying that. I think Allah is saying that. He is the speaker. And then لو لقالوا إنما سكرت أبصارنا بل نحن قوم مسحورون. So I think here basar is also like the object of the sihr. So it's interesting that that apparently it's the basar that is mostly the object or the target, I guess, of the sihr. And it's like it appears to be something that it isn't.
SubhanAllah, from the ayahs, like that's the people talking about themselves. They are convinced that their basar has been, they are mashurin. That's their basar has been bewitched. But when Allah talked about it, is the ayn. I think that's like very interesting.
Which
right,
is
so
Sukkirat Absaruhum? Where is that?
It's in the corpus. I'm literally just like scrolling down. So I think Omar, you spoke about idrak, and this is really interesting because this is something we need to speak about, right? Oh wait, and this too. فكشفنا عنك غطاءك فبصرك اليوم حديد. Oh my gosh, this one's really jarring as well.
That's
so this
death.
That's after death, but then it's like this one. Where's the one that says لا هو يدرك الأبصار? That one.
لا تدركه الأبصار.
Sorry, what? Are we looking for something?
Okay, وهو يدرك الأبصار لا تدركه الأبصار وهو يدرك الأبصار وهو اللطيف الخبير. So the gaze or the basar does not reach him, but he reaches the basar. Subhanallah.
Yeah, subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Also over here.
Oh wait, and then there's
And
like a
then
Mazdaq.
group of
and
people.
even with the Isra wal Mi'raj, like
Yeah, wait, there's also ما زاغ البصر.
ما
But
Yeah.
there's
زال
also a group of people. It's like I think it's a maqam لأولي الأبصار. إن في ذلك لعبرة لأولي الأبصار. That means not everybody who
Mm,
has eyesight or has basar.
yeah.
Oh, ونحن أقرب
In fact,
إليه منكم ولكن لا تبصرون. Like we don't see God. Or
yeah.
أفلا تبصرون. Oh, that's also a common refrain. أفلا تبصرون.
yes.
Like don't you see? But then apparently we do see. Oh, and then there's
But in
so
the
in terms
same
of
time, there's a connection to it. The back to the qulub, that the will absar, and how people like do absar through the qalb, not through the ayn. Like الابصار, the qulub will do the ibsar, right?
yeah لهم قلوب لا يفقهون بها ولهم أعين لا يبصرون بها.
That's on one end, and there is an ayah with the
Yeah, that it's not the eyes that are
لا
blind.
تعمى. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the ayah where it has 3 synonyms in the same one, and it's difficult to translate. How would you guys translate this? وتراهم ينظرون إليك وهم لا يبصرون.
yeah, subhanallah.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would just translate it as, and you see them as looking at you, but they don't see you, or they don't really see
But they
you.
don't perceive, I would say. You
Yeah.
see them
Or
looking
they,
at you, but they do not perceive.
yeah. Or I think it's an
Can
interesting.
we look it up and see like how it's is it translated?
Which
It's
ayah?
very interesting.
It's 7:195. Wait, sorry, no, it's 7:198. It's verb form 4 to see.
Verb form. Absara.
No, to see.
This one, right?
Yeah,
In this list, and you said
وتراهم
7:198.
إن تدعوهم إلى الهدى
Oh, see,
يسمعون.
again, it goes back. So that's the other link that I was going to make. That like basar, and then nur is needed for basar, and then nur and huda always go together. So here also it's like huda, al-hadi, and nur and basir. They're all like together.
يا سبحان الله.
إن تدعوهم إلى
Well,
الهدى لا يسمعوا وتراهم ينظرون إليك وهم لا يبصرون. Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to the other ayat, which we didn't find yet, but we all know it, right? In لا تعمل, I don't remember now. I guess we can find it under Sudur, probably. That's probably the easiest one.
So there's another one about nur and basar. ذهب الله بنورهم وتركهم في ظلمات لا يبصرون.
yeah.
So like the nur is gone. And then even in yeah, it's like this thing about nur being really like necessary for basar, but also like nur is also, I think the Quran is also nur, and it's also huda. Oh, and then on the basar, the block on the basar is called غشاوة. وعلى أبصارهم غشاوة. على أبصارهم غشاوة ولهم عذاب عظيم.
Yeah.
Oh, so
beginning
there's
of
one more
Surah
word for light. There's one more word for light, ضوء. يكاد البرق يخطف أبصارهم كلما أضاء لهم مشوا فيه. So
I
there's
forgot the
ضوء.
difference between Daw and Nur. It's probably in lane, but I think like Daw, I think is like Daw could be reflection, but or maybe Nur can be reflection, but Daw is like the original
Inherent.
source.
Yeah.
Yeah, inherent light.
Mm.
So then
Yeah.
it's also a measure of time.
Yeah.
It's also a measure of time. وما أمر الساعة إلا لمح البصر أو هو أقرب.
Yeah, lamh is another one of my favorite words. It's also in Surah Al-Qamar, وَمَا أَمْرُنَا إِلَّا وَاحِدَةٍ كَلَمْحٍ بِالْبَصَرِ, right? And our
Yeah.
affair is nothing but like one thing, like a glance of an eye, right? Like a quick glance, like the whole creation of existence, everything that Allah does is nothing more incredible to us than like the glance of a human eye. That's just kind of like one of the most powerful lines I think in the Quran.
Subhanallah.
Yes.
I found the ayah. It says فَإِنَّهَا لَا تَعْمَى الْأَبْصَارُ وَلَكِنْ تعمى
كنت أعمل
القلوب
القلوب
التي
التي في
في الصدور.
Yeah. I think that's
Um,
important point too, because like the hearts you can have a wild imagination, right? Like you can have very intense basar, right? You can be very insightful and like, maybe invent things or like write books or whatever it is, but your heart could be completely closed off to the truth, right? Your heart could be completely closed off to the reality of your existence and your creation and your creator. And I think that ayah highlights that, very well. Can you say it again?
And at the same time, it's like showing that the absar is there, right? The qalb is a way to access that the basar
Yeah.
in a way, right? Because لا تعمى الأبصار. It's not just لا تعمى العيون or لا تعمى. It's the absar itself. Like there, all the signs, everything is obvious. But
I
the
think
okay,
the
subhanallah, guys. It's interesting because the qalb, right? Like we always use the image of the qalb as turning, but apparently the qalb, this image is also for the basar. ينقلب إليك البصر خاسئا وهو حسير. So
yeah
it's like I was thinking of it just from like a linguistic perspective. Not linguistic, but like yeah, in linguistics, we do something called like eye tracking to see I mean there's many applications for it, but the one that I'm familiar with is to see like where when you're reading a sentence. I'm sure this obviously varies among speakers of different languages, but like for example, Arabic is usually VSO, verb subject object, right? And then that, like a person who's a native speaker of Arabic will have different qalb al-basar, different movement, eye movement, compared to on the computer screen when they're reading a sentence compared to someone who's reading English, because we look for different things in the sentence. And sometimes like when we read a sentence, we go back to the verb and to like, kind of not just to the verb, but I mean we go back. And so like this is the turning of the eyes is so important for comprehension, if we call it that, nazar. Like we cannot, like our eyes need to reread parts of the sentence and words in order for us to like have comprehension or have insight towards like what's going on. And that's like actually reflected in the physical movement of the eyes, the physical turning of the eyes. And when we speak about names, the name connected to this, it's in the hadith. But yeah, wait, I'll get to that. But وإذا زاغت الأبصار وبلغت القلوب الحناجر. So that's also أبصار and قلوب linked. But this is the interesting one because it reminds me of the hadith. يخافون يوما تتقلب فيه القلوب والأبصار. They fear the day on which hearts and eyes will be turned, and the name is اللهم مقلب القلوب والأبصار ثبت قلبي على دينك. على حبك, I think. But yeah, it's so Allah is the turner of the hearts and of the gazes or the looks.
yeah. In a way that it's yeah, subhanallah, is. And even like with the small like with speed reading, all the techniques is like about the eye movement, how you can um develop different eye movements, and you can increase tremendously the speed of you reading, and your brain will keep up and you understand things faster than how you used to like reading it word to word. And it's like you can get it up to like 10x's or so just by using different eye movement techniques. And تزوغ الأبصار, it means like You turning, it's turning around without actually seeing anything, without comprehending anything, right?
زاغ البصر.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Zawagan al basar, it means like right, like you are, it's something that you are trying to see it, you're looking at it, and you're looking at all this different, like you're turning your eyes around and you still don't see, which is like a very like a scary thought.
زوغان البصر. That's what that, like,
Yeah.
looking. Yeah, that reminds me of like REM sleep, right? So they say like when you, one of the stages of sleep is REM, which stands for rapid eye movement.
Yes.
And yeah, and when you're in REM sleep, like if you see somebody in REM sleep, it
Their
sounds like
eyes
that
twitching.
zawagan. Yeah, it sounds like that zawagan, right? Their eyes are, because you're dreaming, I guess, right? So the brain is imagining that it's in a place and it's seeing things, and so the eye seems to have some kind of muscular kind of response. But all of that really kind of solidifies for me that basar really is insight, like we said, but also imagination, right? Like يتقلب فيه الأبصار. um, uh,
القلوب والأبصار.
فيه القلوب والأبصار, right? So like that, on the Day of Judgment, Allah describes both our basar and our hearts as being like flipped, right? Being, or يتقلب is not just flipped, but like
A continuous
Constantly turning
turning.
almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
continuously flipping, right? Or just like completely upheaval of our imaginations, like a complete upheaval of everything that we could have possibly imagined, right? Like whatever you think, however bad you think, or however intense you think the Day of Judgment will be, is nothing. Like it'll be way more than that, right? It'll be much more intense than anything that we could possibly ever imagine. Even though we can't imagine that, right? We can't imagine stress. We can't imagine being in a difficult situation. But the idea of basar is being linked to imagination, or that part of ourselves that can, create a whole new world, a whole new universe in our minds.
Wait, so I don't know if you guys know about, but this is something I use sometimes just for like light trauma therapy. It's called EMDR.
Yeah.
Have you heard of it? Yeah,
No.
so it's like eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And
Yeah.
it's used for like post-traumatic stress disorder. I haven't like actually had like a proper session or anything, but basically usually it's done with a therapist, but the way that I do it is basically like you just look side to side, like literally just looking from,
Yeah.
like you have like an anchor point on your left and an anchor point on your right, and you just turn your eyes left to right while thinking of the traumatic thing, and it's like so healing for some reason. I don't know why, but maybe because of مقلب القلوب والأبصار, that it helps you.
Scientifically, it triggers like the brain. It triggers
Yeah,
the brain to
both
feel like
sides.
it's moving forward. So with the side to side, it was like a very interesting study, and then they built this whole therapeutic techniques around that. But the first study was just a very simple way of exactly what you described, like 2 points to the right and to the left, and to just continuously going from right to left while thinking and reliving the experience. And with the eye movement, the brain will be stimulated in a way that it feels like you are moving forward. And they even like the same technique can be used on a treadmill. Like if you have someone on a treadmill walking in the same time doing the eye movement and thinking about that has like even more benefits to get the brain into that the concept of moving forward neurologically, which is I think it's amazing.
But maybe
Well,
that's also why, like, because it's a really traumatic experience, the Yom Al Qiyamah, the most traumatic. Maybe that's supposed to be like a lightening of the burden, where that we're trying to like process what's happening, and that's why the eyes are turning.
Yeah, and even like with the REM sleep, it's like you're not perceiving anything visually, but the vision centers in your brain and your imagination. You are seeing all these different things, and you are living in your imagination. And as a reaction, that the eye will do this rapid movements of like trying to check all the different angles of what you are seeing, because it's like the vision center is firing up, and you're living in a like in your imagination. You are seeing everything in your imagination without the eyes actually perceiving something, but the center in the brain is fully active, so you are seeing. And that's why it's the reaction, neurological reaction, that the eye will start moving in uh this rapid movements, trying to check all the different angles.
SubhanAllah.
SubhanAllah. Also, like when it comes to trauma, wait. So there's also like people that forgot Allah's ayat. Their punishment is they will be raised blind. قال رب لما حشرتني أعمى وقد كنت بصيرا.
بصيرة.
Mhm.
And so this
كان
one is really
واليوم
interesting.
تنسى.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you forgot the ayat of Allah. So today you've been forgotten. And the way that he's been forgotten is by his basar has been taken away. And I feel like that's like one of the things that shows us that this realm is not a realm of alignment. You know, like if you can see outside, that it doesn't mean you can see inside. And so on the day of judgment, Allah is saying, actually, you were blind because you were blind to the ayat of Allah. So now I'm just aligning your physical body with your spiritual reality, which was spiritual reality was blindness, but you appeared to have sight, but it wasn't, you know, it wasn't real. And then that shows us that the real reality is
It's so
spiritual.
scary.
It's not
Oh,
physical. SubhanAllah, yeah.
like the day of judgment on its own is the beyond our comprehension of like how tough it is, and to be blind, that's subhanallah, the most
So the
scary
other
thing.
thing about blindness is that when I was researching and like just vision, okay, vision is in I don't know, a few years ago I was just researching like vision and like how you can heal your vision from, you know, like having glasses and stuff, prescription glasses. And I found something, it's called the Bates method. And there was a doctor in New York called, I think, William Bates. But anyway, so he found that basically eyes, like you don't actually need prescription glasses. You can train your eyes, like because they have muscles, you can basically train them to focus on. And subhanAllah, now that I think about it, it was kind of tataqallab because he basically, one of the ways to heal, like one of the parts of the program is to like focus on something really far away and then focus on something really close to your eyes.
Mm.
But anyway, so then of course, big pharma be hating as usual. So they actually banned the Bates method in New York, and like I don't know, it was like 100 years ago that he lived, and because people were using his method and they were getting off of prescriptions glasses. But I was thinking that, and actually, there's research. I don't know if there's like actual research, but in like neurolinguistic programming, like someone who taught me neurolinguistic programming taught me that, like the gaze or the eyes get like people get prescription and like their eyes basically kind of stop working as a result of traumatic events. And so it's sometimes, for example, one of the cases that it's like sometimes something really traumatic happens to a person to the point where they don't want to see the world. For example, the loss of a loved one. And so they kind of subconsciously block their optic nerve. And then when that trauma is healed, then their eyesight heals. And so it's actually very possible to heal eyesight and without LASIK, without, you know, correction or prescription glasses. And I was thinking about how, subhanAllah, in the Quran, we have an example of this. اذهبوا بقميصي هذا فألقوه على وجه أبي يأتي بصيرا. So Yusuf alayhi salam, like Yaqub alayhi salam loses his son and he becomes blind. And the way that Allah heals him is by bringing his shirt with, like, you know, which has his energy in it. And
Smell
he becomes,
too, right?
yeah. And he basically like subhanAllah, like his vision comes back.
Yeah, I
So
think you said specifically إني لا أجد ريح يوسف, right? He says, I
Yeah.
smell Yusuf. So it says smell
And
and
that's even like from before they get him the shirt. That's when the qafila came with the shirt
oh yeah,
entered the town. He was
yeah.
like أجد ريح يوسف. Yeah, and it's very interesting because even like in the medical literature they say like the very tiny muscles in the iris controlling the lens, and that's how you can actually accommodate to seeing like different distances. If they get fatigued or there's a dysfunction with it, it's irreversible, and that's not true. Like right now, we know that you can train your eyes and get it back. And even like with glasses, what you do is that you s- you just block that. You stop the muscles from getting trained in like a natural way.
You guys remind me of like I think I heard about it. I mean, I might have heard it from like an anime, but I think it's like an old martial arts practice to train your eyes. You count the leaves on a tree, right? Try and count leaves on a tree
Mm.
or any kind
Yeah,
of
I've heard even a Sufi sheikh say that count 100
yeah,
leaves every day.
yeah, or even any kind of small like I mean, reading obviously is actually a very good practice for the eyes, especially Arabic because there's so many small little details that you have to pay attention to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I found something else that's very interesting to me grammatically. وحسبوا ألا تكون فتنة فعموا وصموا ثم تاب الله عليهم ثم عموا وصموا كثيرا منهم والله بصير بما يعملون. And they thought there would be no punishment, so they became blind and deaf.
Yeah.
But in another translation, it says they willfully became blind and deaf. Then Allah turned to them in forgiveness. Then again, many of them became blind and deaf, and Allah is seeing of what they do. It's so interesting. I think amu, wasam amu here is like it's they blinded, right? Like it's an act. It's an act of
Yeah, they
yeah. Like
blinded
they went blind.
themselves. Yeah, they.
SubhanAllah, it's not like they were blinded because you would think that it's like a passive thing, going blind. But here, God is saying that it's actually a willful thing. Like it's something you do on purpose. You can
Yeah.
blind yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I
Subhanallah.
think I think I have to tie this, to how I kind of started with my little, uh, you know, uh, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like this is like a guerrilla radio, and I'm, speaking to fellow rebels. But
You're so dramatic. What the heck? No,
I love
it's
it.
not that deep.
no, I mean, honestly, like I mean, I said this, in the beginning, and I mentioned it to Zanira too. I think a lot of people are much more. And I don't know why it took me 40 years to realize it, but because we are all very well aware that not every soul is saved, right? Some souls don't want to see the truth. Some souls don't want to know the truth. They're fine being plugged into the matrix. They're fine with the illusion. Um, and I think that's led me to the recent realization that a lot of people don't want to have conversations. They don't want to express their own ideas or hear other people express their ideas, whether or not that's like kufr or what's going on in their heart. That's for Allah to decide. But I think it's a very one of the things I keep that's been in the back of my mind throughout our conversation is like, what is light actually? What is real knowledge? What does it mean to actually see, right? To truly see and to truly want to see, as opposed to just being content with what you're told to see, or the status quo, or um, and we should I guess mention that kufr, right? Like disbelief, uh, in Arabic, is it literally comes from the idea of a farmer, because a farmer buries the kafara, right? Kafara al-habba, right? Like it literally means to take the seed and plant it in the ground, but not just plant it, right?
To
The
cover it up, yeah.
yeah, the aspect that's being highlighted by this root of kufr is not looking, right? Is not say is hiding, right? Hiding something, right? Is like, because when you take the seed, you put it in the ground, and you cover it up. So you can be a kafir in the sense of a farmer, right? But you want to be a fallah, right, or a falah, right? Because you want to be aware of of the seed after you cover it, right? You don't want to just put it in the ground and then forget about it, and then forget about the whole process of life that happens when you put a seed in the ground and give it sustenance and nutrients and allow it to break through the earth and expand itself, right? You can be completely oblivious to that reality of life and that miracle of life. um, uh, and that's the greatest danger, I think. But I think it's also the very obvious reality when we live in a world that we live in today, where nothing makes most of the stories that we hear don't make any sense, right? Like politicians and leaders and global powers, some some of them at least, can do whatever they want without any consequence, and it just doesn't make any sense. um, and I can't help but think of many quotes. I can't think of one directly, but many quotes that say that all the evil in the world is spreads only because of our silence, and only because of our turning a blind eye. So yeah, I, I, I'm not going to go off the deep end, inshallah, but I do want to emphasize that, like, there is a kind of radical. You are being a kind of rebel and a kind of radical every time you think for yourself, right? Every time you try and understand something in the Quran on your own without, like, appealing to an authority, or feeling that you cannot make an interpretation or have an opinion unless it's in a textbook, or unless some scholar who was authorized said so. I think every time you think freely, you are waving the flag of revolution, especially in this modern world.
Yeah, I think fundamentally it's like having that excitement to challenge ideas and to be challenged,
Yeah,
and that balance between like in the same time you don't want to like reinvent the wheel, right? You don't want to like part of the depth of Islamic thought and Islamic philosophy and Islamic sciences is that you have all these different generations of people who like devoted their whole life contributing to that and passing it down. So it's like that balance between like understanding Islam from the source and going through all the different generations who contributed to and added to that understanding, and then applying it to your time, understanding your time. And that's where the head begins. Like after like understanding everything that been passed down to you, and then applying that, which is neat. Like it's a very delicate balance, right?
yeah,
Because some people can also be like the whole idea of like being a mufakkir Islam, not really studying the turath, turath al-Islam, like not studying all this heritage of sciences and scholars and trying to just start by like your own version of interpretations of Islam. That can be like a tricky too. It can lead to like the other direction.
yeah, yeah. I think there's definitely about balance is definitely important, because you can be my favorite Sheikh, actually, Sheikh Sharawi. I think he puts it really, really well, and it's one of the first videos I translated, because he talks about Tha'ir al-Haq, who is the revolutionary of truth, right? And there are those that, like, he says "عايز كل يوم يعمل دوشة," right? Like, there are those, he says in his very colloquial Egyptian style, because he can speak both. He can speak very colloquial and he can speak very proper. So he appeals to a lot of people, but he says that, like, some revolutionaries or some rebels, they just want to make noise every day, right? That's all they want to do. They just want to cause a stir. And inshallah, I hope I'm not one of those, because I do want to
No,
cause,
inshallah, not.
yeah, I do
Come
want to cause a stir, right? I do want to provoke, and I have been criticized, as that, sometimes, as just trying to be provocative, or just trying to be counterculture, and I don't think that's my, I don't think my aims are so short-sighted, because I think you have to kind of provoke people and shake things up a little bit, make noise at first in order to get anything to change, right? In order to wake people up a little bit, and then they take the steps themselves to, to think outside the box. So it is a delicate balance, right? But I think, as Sheikh Sharawi says, like, the true revolutionary isn't just somebody that just wants to make noise and destroy, and cause a ruckus every day. He wants to destroy the old regime, the old paradigms, the old systems that are no longer serving us, but rebuild as well. Rebuild new foundations, new, and maybe I shouldn't say foundations, because I'm not trying to like get rid of all previous scholars and previous works and abandon that. That's not the idea at all. But I think when we talk about foundations, and language is the key, right? Language really is the balance, right? Because a lot of times, we, like, people in classrooms and programs and organizations and communities and mosques and whatever it is, they get lost in one text, they get lost in one interpretation or one school of thought or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and they take for granted, I think, a lot of the very basic assumptions which come from language. And that's what I'm all about, and what these sessions are all about, is going back to the language, going back to the roots, and trying to trace back, like, how we got here, instead of just, like, running amok, and um, uh, not thinking critically about where we are and where we need to be. Okay, that's the last of my rebel guerrilla.
Nah, I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
And I'd love to think of myself as a rebel too, in that sense.
yeah. It's a great responsibility, I think. Right, like Uncle Ben said to Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. So I don't think we should just go around and make noise all the time, but sometimes it's necessary, right? That's the only way to get people to wake up.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think this is like the is that a big question, like the purpose of life. And it's like the ma'rifa, like I know we talked about it a few times, and وما خلقت الجن والإنس إلا ليعبدون. How Ibn Abbas رضي الله عنهما, his tafsir is يعبدون ليعرفون. And it's like that, seeking the ma'rifa. And that's like through knowledge, through practice, through humbling yourself, through learning from others, through ijtihad and thinking. And so, yeah, that's I think that's the purpose of life. Like that's what we all strive for.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you know, like what's really interesting, like as like kafara and ghafara, how like they are so
uh,
close, and even at the like basic meaning of like
yeah.
covering something.
Kafara, ghafara. I wonder if there's
And
any other.
then
Yeah, and ghafara also means satara, so it's the sense of covering.
yeah, sabara.
We can see.
And subhanallah, with like kafara, to cover something, with like the with knowing exactly, like right, with the like the kufr is like to know and then deciding not to worship Allah in the right way and to like submit to Allah, like to know exactly, and that's the kufr, right? And even with the scholars, they this is like that's a whole another debate to have. It's like a big debate between scholars, but they all agree on the kufr is it's not being like a not knowing, it's like to know and then decide not to submit,
Yeah,
and
just
that's
like
the kufr.
the seed, right? I always thought it when I first came across this root, and I was like, wow. So like, planting a seed is a beautiful thing. A farmer is like one of the most important, but kafir can mean a farmer, right? And it's just because I think it highlights how simple it is to be ungrateful and to reject faith, right? Because like how a seed works, how life works, but it's so easy to just turn a blind eye. It's so easy to just think that like, oh, the plant coming out, the crop coming out, the food coming out of the earth, feeding me and sustaining the earth, that's because of me. It's because of my efforts. It's because of my science and my wisdom and my knowledge. It's so easy to make that mistake, right? And
Yeah.
that's why I think the root captures both meanings like that. The very simple meaning of planting a seed and covering it up.
So
And
there's also
And while
positive
you
meanings of kafara, like we're supposed to do kufr. فَمَن يَكْفُرْ بِالطَّاغُوتِ وَيُؤْمِنْ
yeah
بِاللَّهِ. So we have to do kufr. And then Allah does kufr of our sins, like when He said kafar and ghafara, يُكَفِّرْ عَنْكُم مِّن سَيِّئَاتِكُم.
yeah
So it's like Allah turns like away and covers up our sins, knowing fully well that we have them.
and subhanallah, between like even with like kafir, from kafara kafir and from ghafara ghafir, like kafir is like the with the kaf, and again with the light version of something. So we as like humble beings, like creations, as kafir, you do that to yourself. But ghafir, the creator, it's only Allah. Like ghafir, it's only for Allah. Like no one can be a ghafir of anything, of any sort of, in any capacity. Like so I think like with the rain and the qaf
I
and
mean,
this
I think we
strong
can.
energy, we can
It's,
be
I think
ghafir in a
so.
way
Like we can forgive others. But I think this is what really interesting because it's one of the names of Allah that are only manifested in human beings. And jinn, I guess. But yeah, because no one else needs this. Like, animals and other beings, they don't need. So there were some names of Allah that were not manifested on in creation before human beings were created. And Ghaffar, Tawwab, Al-Afu, these names of forgiveness, they are the names that only human beings manifest because only human beings have the ability to turn away from Allah and to do things that require forgiveness.
yeah. But in the same time, I would challenge that with like we can um like using غفرت like غفرت لك. It doesn't like it's not like for us to not we can be like um like to let go of that internal entitlement of being on a position of like, yeah, I will let go of that more than that you do the ghafr. Like with the al-ghaffar, al-ghafir, it's for Allah, and even like from dua, from the sunnah,
I mean, we
like
can do,
the you can do it, like we can use it as a language, be like
but we don't say that in Arabic. Like we can say afu, right? Yafu. We can say afout, right? Like we can, but we don't use ghafara. Do we use it? I
Right.
don't.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe probably not because Allah says,
yeah,
"Fa'fu wasfahu."
Yeah, I
yeah.
don't. I don't think we
But
use
I don't
ghafara.
know. Yeah, but and
But
also I
the
think it
ghafar
says,
itself,
"Ma yaghfiru dhunuba illa Allah."
exactly, yeah. And even
Yeah.
like Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anh, that dua, اللهم إني ظلمت نفسي ظلما كثيرا ولا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت. And
Amen.
also to Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anh, the story when one day he recited that like in a different dua. He said the part like لا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت, and then he laughed. So the man was with in his companionship, his was sitting with him. He told him like, why did you laugh? And he was because Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said it, and then he laughed, and I asked him, and he said like when someone say that, Allah laughs. So I laughed because it's like it's in and I think it's and how scholars will explain Allah laughing is that it's something that pleasing to Allah, the like it's the highest sign of rida from Allah. So when you say that from your heart and you know that لا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت, Allah will laugh in like it's that's like an amazing blessing upon a blessing, right? Like doing that dua and knowing that Allah will laugh at this when you say that sentence.
Well,
And it's
one,
a sunnah that you laugh yourself.
hmm.
And I found it like really interesting. Some like how some people practice that they be like embodying their sins, and they like from the heart they doing istighfar for sins, and then they say that and they make themselves laugh.
I
And
think
then
Allah has a wonderful sense of humor. Sometimes.
subhanallah, yeah, because it's, the laughing is like the rida. It's like
وهو اللطيف
being
الخبير.
pleased with that.
Yeah, وهو اللطيف. I mean, we say latif as colloquially, we say it to people who are funny, right? Or like lighthearted and fun to be around. But it's also a name of Allah.
Yeah,
Yeah, in Urdu we say latifa for joke
Oh.
because there's like a subtlety, you know, there's like something
yeah, that's
subtle
subtlety. Yeah,
in the what's it called punchline.
So this is a bit of a stretch, but you know I like throwing these out there because they make people they raise an eyebrow. But like partial root for ghafara, kafara here is farra, right? So farr it means to escape, to run away. So I can't help but feel like there is a relationship here somehow. Obviously, kafara, you know, you're kind of escaping by running away or covering. Ghafara, same idea. You also have hafara, which is to make like a hole.
yeah.
There's probably some other. Safara means
So
to
what's khafara?
travel.
What's khafara?
Hafara,
I think the first one and after Basir.
hafara, oh, to protect or hafara,
Khafara to shame.
protected
Istakhfara to
him.
seek forgiveness.
Yeah. So yeah,
Very interesting.
yeah. Partial roots
Wow.
they need
Wow.
a very dedicated study, I think. But I always find it interesting. The other thing that I kind of thought
Sounds
about,
fake to me.
yeah,
Sorry.
maybe. Uh, I mean, if you believe every letter has its own sense or meaning, then I think you cannot deny that there's something to the partial roots. Because if letters on their if radicals on their own have some sort of sense, then combining them has to have some sort of sense as well. But anyway, that's a long topic. Well, the other thing that just came to mind when you were saying kufr, right? That we have to do kufr sometimes, right? فَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِالطَّاغُوتِ, right? Whoever, yeah, I was curious how you guys understand that because, like, you know, covering up the. I mean, there's just interesting idea that I came across recently. I find these like random AI generated Ibn Arabi lectures, and I don't know who writes these things, but like, there's
Oh my
this
gosh, I've
idea
read
of,
them. I've read them.
yeah, I don't know
Actually,
who
it's not
writes.
just him. There's many. I even heard like one from Mufti Menk, and people were like, "It's AI," and it was just crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but there was this interesting idea of like being invisible to evil, right, and being more visible to good.
Oh my
Yeah.
God! Wait, isn't the Jaw's sign that like he has kafir written on his head, and
Yeah,
only the Muslims can see him? See
Yeah.
it?
it's something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about like what does it mean to man yakfur bit-taghut? I mean, obviously it means to like reject them, right? Reject the evil powers that, you know, that want us to just be distracted and entertained all the time. But I wonder if there's more to it.
Because
Than
the ayah is like
لا إكراه في الدين.
لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي فمن يكفر بالطاغوت ويؤمن بالله فقد استمسك بالعروة الوثقى لا انفصام لها.
But it's interesting
الله
also
سميع عليم.
that it's يكفر بالطاغوت, not يكفر بالظلم or يكفر بالكفر or يكفر it's specifically like evil powers, right? That's what taghut means here, like powers.
Yeah. Because it's like that's why I wanted like the whole ayah, because the whole like even the order of how Allah like لا إكراه في الدين, so you have the full will power, right, to choose for yourself. قد تبين الرشد من الغي, and the rushd, it's like the right path, but in a way that it's like the
obvious,
I think
like the obvious right path, like the clear.
But the rushd is like the hikmah that has the benefit for others. Like you choose what's beneficial for the all the creations. Like it's a rushd is like a wisdom in making decisions that they had the highest benefit, even or the most impactful, even if it's not in your lifetime, or it's the right thing to do, regardless of the circumstances or regardless of the consequences for you making that decision, right? That's like that's my understanding of the rushd.
Yeah.
من الغي, right? الغي, which is like misleading people,
right?
And that's what the taghut is doing. And then Allah started with like وَمَا يَكْفُرْ بِالطَّاغُوتِ وَيُؤْمِنْ بِاللَّهِ. So it's a process of like rejecting that, as you mentioned. But I think it's really interesting that Allah, like the order, like to have تكفر بالطاغوت first.
Yeah.
وَيُؤْمِنْ بِاللَّهِ فَقَدْ اسْتَمْسَكَ بِالْعُرْوَةِ الْوُثْقَى لَا انْفِصَامَ لَهَا. So that's the right path, right? And you are, and then لا انفصام لها, because it's going to be difficult, like making the right choices and staying on the right path. It comes with a lot of hardship. لا انفصام لها. So from Allah, you will be connected. Like Allah is the one preserving that connection, not you seeking that connection. So that's the hidayah part, right?
Yeah.
Allah سميع عليم, right? Is it عليم or بصير? لا, سميع عليم, I believe. سميع عليم. Yeah, I think it's سميع عليم.
Yeah, سميع عليم.
And then I guess like the next ayah, right? After that, الله سميع عليم. الله ولي الذين آمنوا
يخرجهم من
الظلمات إلى النور والذين كفروا أولياؤهم الطاغوت يخرجونهم من النور إلى الظلمات أولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون. And it takes us back to the nur. I wanted to say something about the nur, so it's like waiting on that. But subhanallah, like, yeah, the kufr, before we move to an-nur, like the kufr, rejecting like a taghut, because the taghut is that what you are, it will be in this context, it's more obvious, like it's something that you are dealing with in a daily basis. It's something that people are already misled, and whatever they're doing, they are even, like increasing the gap and the whole, because it's like about this easier gain, that instant gratification for people or communities on how they're building everything. So I think that's why it's first, because it's something that you deal with on the obvious, on the surface, and with the most subtle, like seeking rushd in making decisions.
Yeah,
that comes after.
I mean, I think we should also say that ayah comes right after what's considered the most important.
Kursi, yeah.
Yeah, the kursi, right? So that it's contrasted, I think, and juxtaposed with like, the description of Allah as being the ultimate being, the ultimate source, the ultimate creator, the ultimate overseer, the ultimate power over everything. And then it's juxtaposed with like, that's the truth. Don't so reject the powers of falsehood and evil. Yeah. Yeah, I think we didn't say much about light at all, and yeah, so please, if you have some thoughts there, I'm sure it's very fitting. The only thing I was gonna say, if we're gonna close soon, and maybe we're not, but one thing we can think about, I think, is the next name that we have. If you're not if you're not if you don't know, it's Al-Hakam, right? So I think,
Oh,
yeah, I think that's very appropriate, very fitting, because we're talking about vision and sight, and how not all vision is equal. Obviously, Allah sees better than all of us, but even among human beings, a lot of people don't want to see. A lot of people, that's kind of the theme that I've been stuck on for the past couple of weeks, I guess, is just that not everybody wants to have conversations, not everybody wants to know the truth, not everybody is interested in wisdom, right? And that's the next name. And it makes sense, I think, after talking about hearing and vision, that we move on to wisdom, right? Like, because
we haven't done Hakim yet, right?
no, we haven't done Hakim, and it's interesting that Hakam comes before
Oh,
Hakim.
and there's
But
a Hakam al-Adl, right?
Al-Hakam
I see.
al-Adl, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know when Hakim comes. Maybe it might not even be in this list. I don't know.
It should be. Yeah,
Oh,
al-Wasi al-Hakim.
yeah, it was Hakim. Okay, that's interesting.
But the Hakam is like one of the very unique names. SubhanAllah. All of them are unique, of course.
Yeah,
But it's al-Hakam.
yeah,
I
Hakim
wanted to
always.
say something about light.
Yeah, I would love
Yeah,
to
yeah.
take it
I
there.
looked it up the 2 weeks ago when we were speaking about Samia, and you were saying that sound is more fundamental, right? Wait, or light is, which one did you say is more fundamental?
I think sound. Yeah,
But I looked it up, and I looked this up, and it says, I think everybody knows this, that light travels much, much faster than sound.
yeah,
And that's why you see lightning before you hear the thunder from a storm. But it says that the fundamental difference is that light is a self-propagating wave that does not need a medium to travel, whereas sound is a mechanical wave that requires a medium like air or water to transmit through.
yeah. So I think to clarify, I would say that hearing is more fun. I wouldn't say sound is more fundamental. I would say hearing is more fundamental and more basic, and
But I think both are right.
and
Like
vision.
with sound itself.
But vision is more less fundamental, more high level, more much like basically infinite range, right? Like sound has limited range, right? We can only hear certain things, can only be affected by certain vibrations. But basar is unlimited, right? It's infinite, and you can imagine whatever you want. You can imagine a unicorn jumping over the moon. There's no limit
You
to
can't imagine whatever you want. A unicorn, the reason you can imagine a unicorn is because you've seen a horse and
Okay.
you've seen a rhinoceros, and your brain put horse and rhino with horn together.
But still,
You
there's
can't imagine whatever you want. That's why Jannah is like something it's beyond your imagination. If you could imagine it, then
True. But still, the combinations are pretty much infinite. Whereas with sound, they're not. They're finite. That's the only thing I would say. To say that sound, whether light is more, in reality, I think maybe you could make the
But
argument
in the
that light
same
is more
time,
fundamental.
in the same time, like the end of life, like النفخ على الصور, it's a sound, right?
Yeah,
So I think it's like the fundamental, the fabric of the universe itself, right? What's the building unit of universe itself.
it's the
Sound
vibration, all vibration.
yeah, at that vibration level.
Even light is. I mean, well, this is
And,
more. We
and
need a
that's exactly what I
scientific
wanted
point,
to
but
say, like
yeah,
about light. That I was listening to this lecture and they were talking about the nur and the concept of الروحانية المحمدية and the نورانية محمدية, and talking about Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam on the ultimate like spiritual um, being, and the first is spread. But that's like another topic. But so they're talking about light, and then they were like, I found it like really interesting, saying that light is light itself at its essence. Even scientifically, right now, we can categorize light as is it photons? So we've got like particles, or is it frequencies? It's a combination of both, right? Even scientifically, we don't 100% understand what light is. What is light? Is that it's photons is part of light, what light is. At the same time, it's a frequency. So and they were talking about like how light as a concept is this interdimensional medium of, like, it's between, in a Sufi way, they're talking about how the different awalim, the different universes, the different dimensions of being, and they're talking about alam al-mulk, which is the physical realm, and alam al-malakut, which is like the spiritual, right? And there's a alam al-amr, there's like all these different dimensions. But they're talking about how the light is that intermediate between both. It has components from both alam al-mulk, the physical form, and that's like the photons, and the frequency, the spiritual side of it. So it's a combination of both. It's like a barzakh between these two. It's a manifestation of the barzakh between alam al-mulk and alam al-malakut, the physical realm and the spiritual realm. That's why it's something that you can perceive in the physical form, and in the same time, you can perceive it in the our experience of the intermediate, which is alam al-khayal, like the realm of imagination, which is it's in between space between the physical realm and the spiritual realm, is that realm of imagination. And I found it really interesting, and they were like talking about it from all these different perspectives, scientifically, Islamically, philosophically. And so light, what is light? We don't fully understand the concept of light.
Yeah, I think the simple answer that I've come to at some point is that everything is light. The only thing that, and I think this is maybe related to Ibn Arabi a little bit, but only light exists, I think, right? Like darkness doesn't exist. Darkness is the absence of light. Just like cold doesn't really exist, right? Like cold is just the absence of friction, it's the absence of heat. That's probably overly simplistic. I think the idea that light is also knowledge is kind of the same thing, right? That like we perceive things differentiated, right? We perceive our bodies as separate from the world, our phones, the desk, the chair, everything is separate, but that's just because of our limited perceptions. In reality, there's no real reason, there's no epistemological proof or evidence that anything is actually separate, right? So I think when we ask what is light, what is nur, I think we have to be very aware of the fact that our perception is limited. And then of course you have in the Quran, right? And this is fundamental, I think, to Ibn Arabi and a lot of Islamic mystic thought. Allahu nur samawati wal ard, right? Allah is the light of, well, now that I think about it, actually, Allah says he is the light of the heavens and the earth. But does that mean that Allah is light necessarily?
Of course not.
Yeah.
Azza wa Jal.
But it's interesting because but no, Nur is definitely one of the names of Allah. According
An-Nur.
to I don't know if it's in this, yeah,
I don't think it's
but
in
I
this
don't know if
Yeah,
it's in the
but
list. But it is a name that people call on. And but it's interesting in that thing, in that context, because it says light is a self-propagating wave that does not need a medium, whereas sound needs a medium to travel. So like God is the light of the heavens and the earth, but it doesn't say God is the sound, you know?
mm,
So it's like
mhm.
light has this kind of independence and not just that, but what's it called? Like a you be no, what's something that's like present everywhere. There's a
Something that's
word for it.
present everywhere, ever present, or ever
No, but like yeah, ubiquitous. That's what I meant to say.
ubiquitous. Yeah,
So
omnipresent.
like apparently even in the and one ayah that reminds me of like this reality is that well, I actually don't remember the ayah, but he says that he guides you in the darkness of the sea. And so it's like
In the what?
um darkness of the sea.
Uh, ظلمات البحر. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like darkness is actually so guidance is actually light, right? Even in
Right.
the ayah of Nur, Allah nuru samawati wal ard, at the end it says Wallahu Yahdi,
إلى
that
نور.
he guides to his light whoever he wills.
Yeah.
So like Nur and Hadi are like, intricately connected because Nur is inherently, I guess Huda is inherently light, like guidance is inherently light. It is the opposite of darkness. And so, but then it's so interesting because he says, in the darkness of the ocean, that Allah guides people, human beings, whether they're on ships or I don't know, whatever. But that means that even in where it looks like there's no like physical light, there is light because that's guidance, and guidance is light. So that's what I meant by the ubiquitous. Like, even at night, there's no like physical, we don't perceive the light, but guidance is still there. And in fact, maybe there's more because if you think about it, what is the time that is supposed to be when Allah descends to the heaven of the earth? Like it's the last third of the night. That's probably the darkest, right? The darkest hour before the dawn. And that's when we're supposed to pray to get extra close and to get extra guidance, some might say. So even when there is, so it's like this ubiquitousness where it's like, is it ubiquity? Please, I don't know what it is, but it's like, an ever presence, light, ever presence of this name, like even where you don't perceive it, even where our basar doesn't perceive it, but it's there.
yeah, and I think we all agree on our understanding of the concept of light within our limited perception, and even with through the revelation, through like the what's the concept of light beyond our limited perception of light, like in a spiritual way too. But I'm trying to. I think we're talking about one side of things. So I'm trying to connect it to the idea that fundamentally, all the creation, the cosmos, is night, and that's not darkness. It's night, and then like that, how Allah Subhanahu wa Taala created the creation. Fundamentally, it's night, and then the light and the hidayah and the guidance, the spiritual light, and all of that is how you navigate the night, or it's how Allah um gave us like the to make like decisions in a way, like the free will is navigating night through light, right? Like in I think we're talking about like one side. So we're talking about Allah nuru samawati wal ard, and and the whole like the ayah with like the Allah like give a very thorough like description of the light with a lot of different metaphors, a very complex metaphor with like layers and layers and layers. And at the end of the ayah, Allah yahdi لنوره من يشاء ويضرب الله الأمثال للناس والله بكل شيء عليم. So it's just like there is our knowledge there is we will never reach the full understanding of light as a concept. And that's why it like started with like even our perception of like light in a physical form through physics and science and even spiritually. And what's the light is that intermedium between two realms, like the physical and spiritual. Because our knowledge is limited to these two. Like beyond that, it's like alam al jabarut, alam al amr, alam al. It's that beyond the.
Even Malakut, like very few people I think would have knowledge of that, right?
Sorry, I didn't hear.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
I said even Malakut, I feel like very few people would have knowledge of that realm.
of course. Just through the revelations and yeah. So it's also like limited. But but that's what I mean. Like everything is light. I love the notion of that, right? But I'm trying to connect it to the idea that what's that light is illuminating. It's illuminating the night. So the night itself cannot be part of that light. It's something that the light is illuminating.
Say that last part again.
So that creation itself, fundamentally it's night, and there is light to guide us through that night. And that's why, like with everything is light. I'm challenging that with being like that's part of it, just one side of the same coin. Like it's a side that all right, everything we perceive, knowledge, even like ma'rifa, the whole journey of existence is through light. So everything we perceive is light because it's been illuminated by light.
So
But it's night that we're going through, navigating a night with the guidance of that light. So Allah is transcendent from just being the light. It's one of the names in like Allah Nur Samawat and Nur. But you know, like it's very. I think it's even for me, it's like very hard to express it because I don't even fully understand what I'm saying. You know, and
I,
just
I,
it's
I
very
think
abstract.
I think the key, and we kind of touched on it, right? I think Neri brought it up, and it's this here where Allah says that He created هو الذي جعل الشمس ضياء والقمر نورا. So nur in the Quran is really reflected light, right? It's not the original light, right? And I think that again
Yeah,
points to the like the idea of limited
ضوء
perception.
النور. Yeah,
Yeah. So like in the sense that even when we say Allahu nur samawati wal ard, any light that we see, any beauty that we see, any knowledge that we receive, even in our navigating the world, is from Allah. Is you know part of Allah in a way, right? We also call Allah al-Haq, right? So, and that means truth, right? So like
Allah doesn't have parts.
yeah. I
It's a
wanted to say that, but at
manifestation
the same time,
of Allah. It's a manifestation.
I understand what you're saying.
right, yeah,
Amare.
yeah. No, yeah, thank you for the correction. Yeah. Um it's part is a bad word, right? But it's like it's all we can get of Allah, right? Because like just like when Musa wanted to see Allah and he said go to the mountain, and if you could if the mountain still stands then you'll see me, right? all we can get is the after effect, right? Allahu nuru samawati wal ard. It's the after effect of Allah, right? It's all that can reach our limited perception. That's all I really mean. Um,
And that's
and
why I think manifestation, the word like Zinera used is more, yeah,
yeah. It's a
correct.
manifestation, right? And we talk about this in the Fusul sessions, I think, in Fasnuh, right? With Dr. Fadders, we talked about this a couple times, and I think he even mentioned that like this is in like Bab al-Hira or something like that, in the chapter of like confusion, because even in Fir'aun there is a manifestation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or even in the idols that people worship improperly. There is a manifestation, even in the computer and the phone and the desk and the whatever it is, right? There is
Yeah.
a manifestation of Allah in all of reality. Um, but we
Can
don't
I add
direct it.
something from an energy perspective?
Yeah, of course.
So, I don't know, like, so, like, in energy healing, we do sometimes, um,
Voice better clear now.
Oh yes, much better.
Yeah.
Bluetooth is
Okay.
always a bad idea. Never use Bluetooth.
So yeah, so basically like I was thinking about it, like, we do an energy reading. Like if someone comes to me and they're like, why is my stomach hurting or whatever, and then I'll do a reading. We call it a reading, or sometimes we say scan. But I was wondering like what I actually use. Like, do I use my sama or do I use my basar when I'm doing that? And I guess it varies, maybe, because sometimes I see images and sometimes I get words. But then again, sometimes I see the words, sometimes I hear the words, like, sometimes it's just different. So
Would you
like
say
if
it's
someone
your heart?
I feel like Basar includes sound.
Would you say it's your heart?
Sama.
And then the perception, whatever, like that's how you're doing the ta'aqqul of whatever you are perceiving through like the ta'aqqul and the rationalization of it is like
I don't know, maybe
either
there's also like
through
something called like
different
firasa,
mediums.
right? Like
Yeah.
firasa. That's, I think, what's more of what's going on. But it's so interesting. I don't know what I sometimes I even feel it in my body physically.
Yeah.
So then I was thinking that, but then the explanation that I heard from, I think it was Sheikh Musab Penfound, but the Habaib, they're very specific about, the Ba'alawi Habaib, they're very specific about like doing embodying as many sunnahs of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as possible.
Sallallahu
And so I think Sheikh Musa was saying this, but I heard someone, I'm almost certain it was him. But he said, so basically when we do dhikr, I mean, this isn't what he said, but this is just, I think, a common understanding amongst the Sufis is that whenever we do dhikr, whenever we do good deeds, our light increases and it gets like, we get brighter basically. And I think this might actually be measurable by like an aura camera or something. And there's different, like literally we emit different radiations of like different wavelengths of light when experiencing different emotions. Like I think this is like documented, what anger looks like, what color anger has, what
Yeah.
color love has. So then basically the point, I think, in one way, the entire point of everything that we have to do in terms of halal and avoiding the haram and doing the fard and the mustahab, is that to embody more light, to become lighter or brighter, but also to become lighter, because light is not dense, right? Like light as in the opposite of density, whereas our bodies are dense and they're kind of dhulumat actually, because they're from the world of darkness. And then, but what we actually are is light, which is, I think, we don't know what the ruh is, but in one way it is light because it is from God's light. And the more we embody and the more we connect with our ruh, the more light we become and the more bright we become. So I was thinking, like, because Sheikh Musab said in that video that when a certain sheikh like looks at a person, they will know which sunnahs of the Prophet ﷺ this person does or does not practice, which is kind of like an energy reading, which I think of it as an energy reading. But the way he said it is, the way that they would know is because each sunnah has a certain light that it adds. So let's say doing miswak, it's going to have a specific light. And he said when the sheikh sees a person who does not practice that sunnah, that light will be missing from that person. And I
Yeah.
was like, "Damn, subhanallah."
That's really
Yeah.
true. It reminds me of like I've always wanted to see if I can find like a Chinese medicinal expert or something like that that can just like. I mean, I hear stories
Me,
about
I'm
they
here.
can. I mean, I hear stories about how they can just like they can look at your skin and they can tell you like what your diet
Yeah, of
is
course.
and
Your
like.
tongue, especially the tongue. And there's like things that there's parts of the body that are what are they called? Oh God, yeah, microcosms. So Chinese medicine has this idea of microcosm, which is also kind of the entire idea of Ibn Arabi, that the Khalifa is supposed to be, or the Insan Kamil at-Tam is supposed to be a microcosm of the universe.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a really beautiful shi'ar. I forgot what it was. I should find it. I think I give that book away. I'm gonna go find it because it's about Rajulun Saghir and something. I'm gonna go get it. But yeah, go on.
I mean that's all I was thinking, but I guess to kind of tie up, what we've been saying about light and nur. My brain has kind of been going to the root, and as you can see here, I guess if I scroll up, nar, which is fire, and nur have the same root. I wonder if this is debated actually because it's a weak root, right? It has a weak letter in the middle there, so I wonder if some scholars differ on this. But you see, nar appears in the Quran 145 times, where nur appears 43.
Mm.
And then you get Munir 6 times. And to me, I think, the way I kind of like, I've been thinking about it, at least in like the last few minutes after listening to you guys speak, is that, I think one of the simplest imperatives in Islam is that we go towards the light, we go towards the nur, we want to go towards the nur, right? We want to be near Allah and we want to be far from the nar, right? We want to be near the nur and far from the nar, right? And I think that's why it not appears more in the Quran, right? Because it's warning, right? A lot of the Quran, most of the Quran is warning, right? Guiding us. And if you want to guide someone well, then you have to warn them of dangers. And I think in the kind of the most abstract sense that I've ever kind of thought of it, hell, it's kind of like too much light, right? Like that's kind of how I think of like heaven and hell in a way, right? It's like you only end up in hell if like you just if you go beyond, if you transgress, right? If you go beyond the limits that have been prescribed to you. And everything is light, like we said, right? Like everything that's around us is vibration, but like we're surrounded by so many things that are visually pleasing, right? Whether it's the imperative to غض البصر, right, to lower your gaze, in front of the other sex, or if
But
it's
subhanallah, Jahannam is also described as dhulumat.
oh really,
Yeah.
where is that?
Let me look.
Well, I mean, that's still, I don't think, I'm not trying to say that hell is light, right? That's not what I think I'm saying. I think in some ways it's kind of like nur is like light and knowledge in its appropriate context, right? Like it's in its proper domain, whereas nar is just like the epitome of everything outside of its domain. Nar is just like more than uh, I mean, it's extreme loss, right? In a way, right? Because like in any system, heat is the one thing that like is always you can't capture heat, right? So any system, heat is always a loss. Is always the like a byproduct that's lost, and it's always kind of an excessive thing that you can't do anything with. I'm speaking really out loud here and kind of just random thoughts, but I kind of just try and I guess reconcile the
Yeah,
fact,
I love it.
yeah, that like fire and light come from the same root, and I think that there's a wisdom there, or like an imperative to be not be excessive, right? I think there's another hadith that says that like Islam, every religion has a characteristic, right? And the characteristic of Islam is hayat, and that's shame, right, or modesty, or holding yourself back, right, in some kind of capacity, not letting yourself become excessive or being too much, right? You also have in the Quran, لكي لا تأسوا ولا تفرحوا, right? Everything is written in a book so that you don't despair or so that you don't become too happy, right? So you stay, I hate to kind of say stay within the lines because, I'm such a rebel and I like to color outside the lines. But, in a spiritual sense, right? In the sense of like, I think Allah wants us to enjoy life. He wants us to enjoy the beauty of life, right? That's why he gave us these forms. That's why he gave us this limited perception, right? He could have just put us in heaven, right? He could have made our lives a lot easier, but it's the fruit of um, of our efforts that make life sweet, right? And I think Allah wants us to enjoy those things. That's why we don't look down upon like we don't consider ourselves originally sinful, right? We don't look down upon intimacy between spouses and stuff like that, or enjoying food, or even having wealth and riches, right? Those things are not like bad in Islam by default, right? It's giving yourself to them. It's becoming attached to those things. It's becoming excessive in those things. That's what we're advised against in Islam, and I think that's reflected in this root, in just the simple vowel change of nur and nar, right? Like be aware of the nar, be aware of like, that ultimate fate that will take many, but also be aware of the nur that will protect you and keep you. Yeah, I mean, I'll have to think about that more and better
I don't know
articulate it.
though, because
Sure, but
there's a lot of like
I
In Sufism, there's a lot of like, for example, love is a fire that
aestheticism.
you have to burn in the fire of love. Like
Yeah, I
there's
mean, and
like
Sufis would
has
wear.
really positive connotations as
because
well.
the I think the connotation of the positive connotation of fire is purification. So
Yeah,
it
that's fitna.
purifies
Yeah,
things, and
yeah.
that's like from a fitna.
No, it's also like passion. And not just that, but it's also Allah's there's a hadith where it says like his veil is fire, or like there's so many veils
Oh,
and
okay. I see where you're going. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, I think that's a good point, right? Because I think and I don't think that really. I think that that aligns with what I'm saying, right? Because like passion is good too, right? Like I
Yeah,
think
and
Allah wants us to be passionate and bold and embracing, but you have to like you can't be too passionate, right? You have to. There has to be y- I don't want to say limit, but there has to be awareness, right? Like you
I
know,
think we all agree. I think there is no ceiling for like being passionate the right way, but in the same time, it's all about like how you directing that passion, how you are channeling that passion.
yeah, exactly. I mean,
And
I just think it's like the beauty of like nur and nar, right? Like they're so close and so far away.
yeah, yeah, subhanallah. And
Yeah,
I found the hadith is عن عاصم عن ابن صالح عن أبي هريرة عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال أوقد على النار 1000 سنة حتى ابيضت ثم أوقد عليها 1000 سنة حتى احمرت ثم أوقد عليها 1000 سنة حتى اسودت فهي سوداء كالليل المظلم. And there is another hadith that also with the same like Rasulullah describing how dark it is. أترونها حمراء كناركم هذه لهي أشد سوادا من القار.
yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I think, yeah, and especially with the idea of like um what was I gonna say? So
One last one. إن نار جهنم أشد حرا من ناركم هذه تسع وتسعين جزءا وهي سوداء مظلمة لا ضوء لها لهي أشد سوادا من القطران.
yeah,
So there's no low. So it's not like the low is taken away from it, which is like it doesn't originate any kind of low.
Yeah,
You know?
it reminds me also of how like at extremely cold temperatures, like the cold
Yeah.
will burn
Yeah.
you, right? Yeah, and coldness is again, lack of heat, right? Lack of it's like darkness is lack of light.
Yeah.
Wow, interesting.
So fire is also like one of the things that Allah kind of uses in, I think, what I think of as ayahs of causation in Surah Al-Waqi'ah, I think. أفرأيتم النار التي ترون أأنتم أنشأتم شجرتها أم نحن المنشئون.
Mhm.
So it's like, it's one of the signs of God's causation. And especially when it comes to, like, the peak of that is, what's it called? Ibrahim alayhi salam being thrown into the fire. قلنا نار يا نار كوني بردا وسلاما على إبراهيم. That is the reason why fire burns, is because God made it or let it burn. If he said be peace and salam, then it's going to be, cool and salam, then it's going to be cool and salam. But yeah,
And
it's
there's one I
mentioned
heard
as,
one scholar. He's a physicist, and he was talking about if it was only burden, it would have caused exactly the opposite, like the burn to coldness that you mentioned, Omar, and that's why it's burden wa salama.
Hmm.
If it's
Yeah.
only even like in a physical understanding of like the thermodynamics and everything, if there's a fire that it doesn't create heat, and it will vacuum the heat in a way that it will drop to the exactly the opposite of burning, which is harmful the way. And I think there is even a hadith about like people in Jahannam, their adab will be like the opposite of
Cold,
being
right? Like,
burned. Yeah,
yeah, I think I remember hearing something like this too. Yeah, like an extreme cold. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Subhanallah.
Subhanallah. Okay, khair, should we end here? And
Zinera, were you like still talking, and did I interrupt
yeah,
you?
no. So I was just saying that I think what you said was really interesting, because then, like salam, it also means balance and harmony. And I think that's what we need to do with fire, because fire is good. For example, I'm cooking right now, but so it's like a controlled fire, right?
Yeah,
And without fire, we cannot cook. But like it's something that needs to be balanced. And even within our bodies, like we have the element of fire
yeah.
in Chinese medicine and all of that. Like we need to balance it. So I think salam is like the name that, yeah, we
And
need when
even
it comes to fire.
Ibrahim alayhi salam, when they asked him about like the best days of your life, he was like in the fire. That burden salam he was in, he was the highest um, level of enjoyment in life.
oh wow, I never heard that
That
before.
he enjoyed that was the best days of his life,
Subhanallah.
because there's no any kind of like hardship or any. It's burden salam for all these days in the fire. It was the most peaceful and the highest tumanina he ever experienced as through his life.
It reminds me of one last idea, maybe, and that's the root for salah, right? So, and maybe it's different roots because it's also has a weak letter in there, but so salah, right? We know is worship, but it also is related to like, at least phonetically, to like sula, right? So that's connection, but it's also related to sal or sali, right, with the ya at the end,
Mm.
and that's burning, right? So I always thought that that was kind of interesting because like salah is like how we maintain our connection um,
Yeah,
to
subhanallah.
To Allah, but and if
Even like Sal al Jahim, right? Is it Sal in the Quran?
yeah, the salul jahim, yeah, and they were burned or cooked um, in the hellfire. Yeah, so I guess, yeah, I always just kind of thought about like how salah is also another one of those like similar concepts. Like it's it's connection, but it's simple vowel change, and you're burning.
Yeah, subhanallah.
Yeah. I guess without the lack of connection, that
And I think that's like that's what they say, like the subhanallah, um, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created veils, so and he made it like a salam. That's why, like the salah itself, like it's the same concept, like with the mountain. When Musa alayhi salam asked Allah, and we mentioned a few times, and the mountain just like vanished because it's like we can
I think
withstand that energy
yeah, I think
without a
that
salam component, without a
yeah, you helped me complete my thought, right? Because I think you have the hadith that says "Ju'ilat qurratu ayni fi salah," right? So Allah says, the Prophet ﷺ says that like the coolness of my eyes, right, or the sweetness of, he found a sweetness in salah.
yeah.
And I think that like that's a similar contrast to like kufr and kufr, right? Like burying a seed and nur and nar, right? In the idea that like we connect to a lot of things, right? Like we connect to each other, we connect to things that we shouldn't maybe connect to, we connect to different movements and organizations and states and nations and all these things. And that connection, might not really be helpful for us in a lot of ways. It reminds me again also of like this idea of like love being destructive, right? We connect to the things that we love, and when you love something, you by corollary or by necessity, you hate its opposite, right? You hate for the thing that you love to be taken away. So there is a kind of burning or destructiveness in any kind of connection and in any kind of love. But the best kind of connection, the best kind of sila is salah, because that will only burn things that you don't want, that you don't need, that are not good for you.
Yeah, subhanallah. Yeah.
And it will maintain your connection to the source of all light and all good. SubhanAllah. Yeah. Okay, khair, inshallah. So until next time with next session, inshallah. Next session is Al-Hakam. So
Sorry, can I say something? I've been thinking
yep.
about this literally
Yeah,
every time I
sure.
was reading Surah Al-Baqarah, that when
Mm,
Allah speaks about divorce, I was like, oh, what is this a manifestation of? Like, what name, And
mm,
then when he's speaking about divorce and he's like, وَلَا تَنْسُوا الْفَضْلَ بَيْنَكُمْ, and like things to do after someone gets divorced, a couple gets divorced. وَلَا تَنْسُوا الْفَضْلَ بَيْنَكُمْ, and then it's like, it's always basir. I mean, a couple of times it's basir. And I thought that's so interesting because, because that's like one of the most, not one of, it is the most intimate like relationship, marriage, where no one else is watching, and it's like what happened in a divorce, like there's like sides to the story or whatever, but only Allah was actually, so it's like he's saying, actually, I've been here, I've been seeing and watching. And yeah, I thought that was really interesting because it's like,
Yeah, and
there's
even
like a
at the
piece.
level of the people, like it's a heart in their sir, like even with the married couple, they don't know everything about each other. Like in the heart, how it was going on, and with the divorce, only Allah will know both hearts and what they contain, right?
yeah,
I mean, even to that extent.
yeah, of course, yeah. I
But
think
is it Al Basir exclusively? Were there any other names?
with the divorce,
Yeah.
I think
I
it was also Khabir, I think, but I don't remember exactly, but I feel like it was like to do with ilm and khabar and basar, and which all of these things, I think, like, it's like, because God is reminding that, I mean, God isn't, yeah, it's not explicitly saying it, but the implication is that you might think nobody was watching, and nobody actually, in reality, nobody except God is watching, right? In most situations. Um, so it's like, it's so interesting to see that God is reminding, even like not just the man, but like both people, that actually you have been like you've been seen, whatever you like, whatever your issue was or fight was or reason was, like I was there. And like don't think that it was just you guys. And nothing was taking note or nothing was being recorded, I guess.
Yeah, that's a very important point. Yeah, I think. I mean, this could be a future session, inshallah. Maybe when we're in our old age, if we still know each other. But the Lisān Lab is still going. But I mean, and I'm sure there are many books written on this. But like, looking at when Allah uses a certain name at the end of an ayah and why that ayah, that name is used. Yeah, I mean, a systematic study of that would be
Amazing.
I'm sure there are books. I don't know any off the top of my head, but I'm sure there
Yeah,
are.
in a way, like that is the entire tafsir in one way, because like whenever Allah says something and then he says, and Allah is this and this, that means that that's the reason why everything that was being said before is a manifestation of these names.
Yeah.
One day, inshallah, or maybe we'll find a book. I'm sure there is a book on this kind of thing. I don't think there's anything, definitely nothing in English that I've come across, but maybe one day we'll find something, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Okay. Jazakumullah khair, everyone. Until al-Hakam next time, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum. And Omar?
No.
Still here? We haven't done the halaqa in so long, right?
Yeah. I think a lot of the guys are
out of town and traveling
or something. Yeah. But I should be good. I should be a little bit more free these next few days, inshallah, or these next couple of months, inshallah. So I'm definitely down.
And I started like a new it's not a league, it's more like the game, the soccer every Saturday. Now they are changing it to like 11 starting next week. So I'm still hoping that we can work out somehow.
Earlier is better for you said?
With everyone else. So there's it's like 16 of us and we voted and they want to move it to 11.
Oh, okay. No, I mean if we
started next week.
Oh, okay. So if we started like 9 or 10, that would be easier for you on Saturday, right?
Or after.
Or after.
I'm like it will be more like after. That will be
we'll see, inshallah.
But inshallah, I will.
Inshallah. We might try, me and Zinir might try a different day too for a different subject. Al-Adad, Al-Adad, I forgot the word. The Jam' al-Dad,
Is it
Jam' did like did? What is Jam' did? Al-Adad, I think. I forget what the Jam' is. But there's a book on opposites. Al-Adad. There you go. Al-Adad, I think. So there's a book on opposites that we kind of want to try and do, but I want it to be a little bit more accessible, quicker, not 2-3 hours, but we'll see, inshallah. I don't know.
Inshallah. And for the mashrab, I filled in the and everything, so I can just start joining the other groups.
Yeah, you can just join anyway. I think the form is I think whoever is managing it is not managing it as much. The one class I think that you'd like is they meet at noon on Mondays. That's the one that I join most often, and I think we alternate, but I think that might change. So we do one book, it's called Sufi Path of Knowledge, and they just kind of talk about very simple, basic Sufi stuff from this good book. And then the every other week we do Fusus, and we're on Fasnuh from Ibn Arabi.
Yeah.
So you can join any of those groups. Feel free, Annie. I think you have access from the WhatsApp community, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can just feel free to join. I wouldn't worry about waiting for anybody or anything like that.
All right, inshallah. And I have the forms, though. If they go check back, it's there.
No problem, inshallah.
Okay.
Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.